Hi, welcome back to another episode of SEO on Air. I'm your host, Aaron, and today we have Gwen Beren, CEO of Illuminous Marketing. We talk about the impact of Google's search generative experience, AI's influence on SEO, and why you need client involvement when integrating AI. I hope you enjoyed this episode. In technical long terms, SEO also is a bit difficult to kind of get into. So, how did you kind of start off that, let's say, field?
Sure. It's kind of interesting because I did go to art school for photography. And in my last semester at art school, we did a Dreamweaver program, if anyone remembers Dreamweaver back in the day. And there were these sections for meta keywords and meta titles. And so that really sparked my interest. And I went into a position with a local web development firm as the director of projects. And from there, I really started learning SEO on my own. And that was about 2008. So I think the first book I got was something along the lines of SEO for Dummies or something like that. And I started there and then just continued my own education online, going through the Google Analytics courses, the paid search courses, following Moz at the time was like one of the premier sources of SEO information. And that's how I got started. It was just curiosity, and I kept tugging at the thread, and and here we are.
And where along that thread did you find Illuminous?
I worked for a corporation for a number of years, and I started their professional services department as by starting an SEO service for that company. And I worked to establish the professional services department for a few years. And then I transitioned into the marketing department, where I founded the marketing department there and really developed that program and moved the organization from a mostly cold calling organization to a more sophisticated inbound model that relied heavily on SEO and also promoted SEO for our clients. And that was a very ambitious time in my life. And as I'm sure a lot of listeners can appreciate, it resulted in a little bit of burnout on my end. And so I decided that I wanted to pursue my own company and get Illuminus started. And I also wanted to make the brand my own and really live into my own values instead of living into the corporate values, which weren't exactly aligned with my personal values. So when I started Illuminus, I really wanted it to focus on the positive, focus on helping businesses shine online. That's one of our taglines. And making sure that we were focused on delivering results to people and not just building kind of a sales machine like a churn and burn model. Our model is really
Right.
much more based on quality data and staying up with the trends that happen in SEO almost daily.
And to kind of give a bit more context, when was Illuminous started and what kind of clients, let's say, are the most common ones you'd find?
Sure. We are actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary this month. So I'm very proud of
Congratulations.
that. Thank you so much. I can't believe it's been 10 years. It seems like it's flown by. And at the moment, the type of companies that we are working with tend to fall into the legal field, lawyers, and related fields that might go along with lawyers, real estate development and construction. We do a lot in the financial sector with CFPs or wealth management companies. We also, in the last year, have really expanded into education, leadership, DEI, inclusivity training. And we are actively working now to serve more sustainable businesses with helping to get their products and services online to the market, to the right audiences, so that we can help to make a big impact with the climate crisis.
When it comes to, let's say, services offered at Illuminous, could you maybe give us a quick brief on that?
So Illuminus started as an SEO company. That's my main passion and my main area of expertise. And as SEO evolved and as the company has evolved, we have expanded into content marketing services, social media services, website development, and website performance services, which can include UX and UI and CRO services, as well as analytics and reporting. We've been able to help several clients really get a better idea of how their marketing is performing by leveraging GA4 and Looker Studio. I almost called it Data Studio, Looker Studio, and those types of things. So our analytics capabilities have just grown exponentially in the last couple of years. And we also are focusing on other channels for optimization. I mentioned social media. We're also really focused on video because it is a very big part of a successful content marketing strategy, a successful social media strategy. And I think that with a lot of the developments of search in the last couple of months, it's going to continue to be a great part of an organic SEO strategy.
I think the 10 years time that you've had, you would have maybe come across a few hurdles. So one more, I think just one more question before the actual bulk of it is, how do you come across these hurdles with the kind of endurance to go past it and move on from it and not really block you?
That's a great question. And I think that as an entrepreneur, or any entrepreneur really can attest, one of the things that you really need to have as an entrepreneur is resiliency and tenacity. Making sure that you can think about problems from several different perspectives, and in that way it's very similar to marketing and SEO. You know, if one thing isn't working, you have to look at it from another perspective and try to find something that is going to work. And the evolution of us becoming a digital agency actually happened because we worked with so many other companies that were not doing things in that way. They weren't being proactive. They weren't being accountable. They weren't looking at data. They weren't making decisions that were in the best interest of the client. And so I'm kind of a, you know, if I can't find someone to do it right, I'll do it right myself type of person. And I've instilled that into the Illuminous marketing culture, and really like to empower our team to take calculated risks and solve problems and try to come up with solutions that might be out of the box, but wouldn't necessarily get us in trouble with any of the platforms.
And it's clearly like a working strategy because if, let's say, there were some loopholes in it, you wouldn't have gone that long for 10 years at least. And it does come with a bit of refinement where if there is a mistake somewhere in between, you can just work on it and up, upgrade yourself, let's say, from there.
100%. I mean, we've had a number of different types of hurdles in the last 10 years, and the thing that I think really has helped us with our longevity is being able to look at mistakes and failures, and learn from those and grow from those so that we don't repeat those again, and so that we can continually be better. I mean, I feel like this is a journey, not necessarily a destination, although we do have a destination always in mind. But part of it is being able to be flexible enough to roll with the punches and make these changes that, as marketers right now, we have to make because of AI and all of the disruption that's happening in our industry.
I am, let's say, the owner of the company Scrooge McDuck Wealth Management Incorporate.
Yeah.
And well, we manage wealth in the long, long story short. I've been told, okay, if you do want to have like a company like this, you do need to have an online presence and have a website. And I've just, let's say, created a very basic website. I've now been told as well that, like you mentioned, SEO, social media, and content marketing are kind of very vital for me. But I don't really know how to, let's say, start off or the importance of these three things. So I've come now to you, Gwen. Can you help me out with these ideas?
100%. So the first thing that we would look at is what are the business goals that over the next year and the next 5 years. And what we do is talk with the client about their goals and about their internal values that they would like to have their target audiences know. What makes them different from one of the big players in the industry? What makes their firm unique and special and stand out from other firms? For instance, we had a recent firm who really wanted to focus on the holistic, the whole family, and wealth management being part of holistic health for the entire family. And so we were able to showcase a lot of their family functions and community involvement, so that the people that were viewing their social media profiles or perhaps vetting the company to know whether or not that was the company they wanted to go with could see that this was a family run business, and it was also a company that was considerate of family wealth. I think that a lot of larger wealth management firms come sometimes with negative connotations of being greedy and things along those lines. And this company in particular wanted to set themselves apart in their values. And then on the other side of that, they wanted to attract more generational clients who, a lot of the boomer generation is retiring and unfortunately, reaching their end of life. And so they wanted to maintain their children's accounts and also reach into other markets where they can get that younger demographic of the millennials and the Gen Xers. So what we were able to do is do some market research and some trend research so that we can really look at what keywords and what questions are these new audiences that you'd like to reach. What are they asking about? What is their most burning question? And so then we can create some content in the form of blog posts and videos and then social media posts that can supplement some of those more value-centered posts for the company. And we also looked for different podcasts and shows that the company could reach out to so that they could reach their target demographic and really talk about what the company wanted to do in order to increase their brand awareness. So that is something that I would do for Scrooge McDuck Wealth Management, is really talk about who the company is, what goals you want to achieve, and what marketing assets can we create to help you achieve those goals while remaining in touch with your values.
I think in terms with the value part of it, I might have to change the name because it might just give off a bit, like you mentioned, the greedy vibes.
Sure.
But in case people don't really look at that and they are just okay with it, when it comes to actually, let's say, getting down and dirty with the actual content of it, or let's say the technical side of the SEO,
Yeah.
or actually even the social media side of it as well,
Yeah.
would it be more easier for me as the owner to, let's say, hire a team in-house or kind of look out to an agency to kind of, outsource it, let's say?
We always feel that it's best to leverage an agency partner that has a team with several specialties. So on our team, we have an SEO manager, we have a social media specialist, and myself as a marketing strategist. And so you're really getting, and we have other team members, of course, that perform other functions, but we're able to have specialists that can provide the services that you need. And rather than when you hire, say, an in-house marketing team, that can get very expensive very quickly because especially as you're scaling up your marketing, you might not have enough for all of these people to do, or you might have a very kind of let's throw spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks kind of situation. Whereas when you're hiring an agency partner who has familiarity in your niche and has familiarity with the industry and what works and what doesn't work, you're already ahead of the game, and there's less of a ramp up to success than there would be if you're trying to bring a marketing team in-house.
To kind of maybe summarize that, would it be better to, let's say, get an agency outsourced partner for the initial part of it, and then when, let's say, you do have the cogs running and the machine is kind of well oiled now, then it would be a good time to kind of hire in-house?
I mean, that definitely depends on the company's goals. We have a number of clients who don't want to have to manage a full marketing team in-house because they want to grow in another direction, and they want to have maybe a point person who coordinates with their advertising vendors or their marketing vendors, to make sure that the strategy stays aligned with the business goals. But of course, I mean, as I said, I started a marketing team in the corporate world, and we were very successful to be able to turn that company, their marketing strategy, from an outbound marketing strategy to getting about 50% of their annual revenue from an inbound marketing strategy. So you could definitely, I mean, you can always, it's always the choice between build or buy, right? And sometimes you just have to look at what the company's goals are and make sure that your growth plan is aligned with those goals.
Let's say 5 common mistakes you would probably see me make when it comes to SEO in general.
Sure. So, a lot of common mistakes that I have, the number one common mistake that we see from an SEO perspective is not being aware of site load speed. And I think that the next 4 items have such an impact on site load speed that that's why it's the number one thing. So, Google has updated their, it used to be EAT and now it's EEAT: experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And experience is really something that I don't think enough companies put enough emphasis on. I see so many sites that take forever to load, and people just unfortunately don't have the attention span and don't want to wait for your site to take forever to load. So there are things that web developers and companies need to pay attention to in order to ensure that that site load speed is up to par. One of those is making sure that your image sizes are not way huge. And if you are going to use on-site video, that you're using those with a content delivery network, and you're not hosting those videos on your website, because the site load speed is just going to, come crashing down if you have a bunch of background videos in your web development. Other things
Right.
that we see are using a lot of WordPress plugins or using really heavy themes on WordPress that take a lot of JavaScript and CSS to load. And that, again, tanks your site load speed. So those are the top 3 things that I would say that we see a lot of people not paying attention to, a lot of web developers not paying attention to. But we also see the problem of people doing on-page SEO and then having a content marketing strategy that is completely separate from their SEO strategy. So if you're creating blog posts and videos and social media content, and you're creating it based off of creative whim, and you're neglecting the SEO side of things, you're not getting the full value out of all of that content that you're creating. So that's where I'm sure a lot of people have heard SEO is an art and a science, and it has to take that creative side of things and the technical side of things and blend those two in a way that resonates with audiences and can resonate with search engines. And the last problem that we see with SEO, and this goes back to web development again, but it also has accessibility implications, which a lot of web developers and companies in general don't realize, is not using your headings on your website in the proper hierarchy, and using, a lot of web developers use those headings as design elements, like, oh, we're going to make H6 look like this, or we're going to make my H3 look like this so that we can use it in the design. But Google and audio browsers that read out the content of a website look at your heading hierarchy to determine the importance of the content, and also to understand how the content flows. And that also, of course, headings are very important in your on-page SEO, and we just see them misused left, right, and center all over the place.
Are these, let's say, quick fixes that can be done, or does this take some time to kind of squash out these problems?
So some of them are quick fixes. One of the reasons we got into web development is so that we can develop things correctly from the start, and we don't have to, or we know already that all of the images are the correct size, all of the headings are being used correctly. But there are a lot of cases where people come to us and they don't need a new website, they just need their website optimized. And a lot of times, things like fixing on page headings can be pretty easy, straightforward fixes. Changing image sizes can also be a straightforward fix. Other factors that might affect your search engine optimization, like the CSS and JavaScript that I mentioned, or using a theme like Divi, unfortunately, which tends to be a very heavy theme. Those things are more complicated fixes. And there are some really great tools that we use to get us kind of to the get us across the halfway point, but it's always best to think about doing things the right way from the beginning is kind of our philosophy.
Yeah, I think it's always easier to make a cake from scratch than to change the recipe midway and save it, I
Yes,
think.
absolutely, I
Um,
agree.
moving on to the next one. What are some common mistakes you see when it comes to social media? I think we can probably give a more general aspect of it. We don't have to, let's say, go into a specific channel.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of things that I see with social media are not taking the time to actually engage on social media or attempt to build an actual community. And also, I see a lot of people posting very sales forward posts and then not understanding why they can't grow a community. The most important thing is that social media is there to be social. People want to they want to see your pictures. They want to see behind the scenes things. They want to maybe learn something. They want to have an aha moment. They want to laugh, or they want to, have an emotion evoked. And it's very hard to do that through generic posts and a lack of engagement. So that's really the biggest challenge that we see people having with social media, aside from the obvious, algorithm changes and trying to hack the algorithms and things like that. But we do also take kind of an SEO approach to social media, making sure that profiles are optimized and that those platforms that also function as search engines like TikTok and Pinterest, making sure that the content there is also optimized to reach into those new audiences. So that's another thing that I see happening, which is people thinking of social as a completely separate animal from SEO, when they can get a lot more lift when they're aligned in that strategy from starting from an SEO first perspective.
Right. And I think even Instagram is kind of incorporating some of that into their own algorithms where they're
Yep.
saying, I don't know if they've actually said it, but they kind of imply that hashtags don't have the same amount of power, but your keywords in your caption do. And if
Yes.
you mention, I think, the same keywords in your video, the subtitle part of it, I think it
Yes.
also kind of boosts your SEO as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
And I think I'm sorry to interrupt. I think they're following
no worries, no
TikTok's
worries.
lead there. And because TikTok has been such a powerhouse at being able to leverage that video content and really and the contextual part of keywords. Absolutely.
But when it comes to social media, do you feel like it's kind of ethical to, let's say, take up some of these black hat SEO for social media because there aren't, let's say, any penalizations that happen, let's say, compared to website black hat?
Yeah, we try to follow mostly white hat techniques and follow terms of service, and stay away from any black hat techniques, because some of those things can get you short-term wins, but they can cause a lot of long-term harm. And a lot of our clients have been clients for, some of them have been clients for 10 years. And so we're really more interested in that long-term relationship with our clients. And if we're doing black hat things that might get us, like I said, a short-term win, but cause a lot of long-term pain, um, that's just not good for anyone, and it can have such an impact on the partnership, the relationship, and amongst the team on the morale. So we always recommend to, again, start by doing things the right way, and then you're not necessarily chasing the algorithms all the time, whether that's the Google algorithm or the Instagram algorithm or the Pinterest, whatever channel you might be on. If you're doing things and you're evolving still, but you are doing things the right way, it's unlikely that you then have to go back and deal with a penalty and deal with, getting put in meta prison or whatever, whatever happens on those social media channels. So, knock on wood, we have not had that experience of any of our clients being penalized for those things. And we also, as we mentioned, we work with a lot of wealth management companies in the United States. They're heavily regulated by SEC guidelines, and GDPR in the EU. We here in California, we have CCPA. So there's all these other regulations also that we are trying to make sure that we're doing what's best for our business partners, i.e. clients, making sure that we're not putting them at risk using any kind of black hat techniques.
What would you think are some common mistakes that you would see me make when it comes to starting off my content marketing strategy?
Not using an SEO first approach to a content marketing strategy really puts businesses at a detriment, because SEO is where a lot of the data comes from, right? We know all of the search trends, we know all of the questions that people are asking, we know the keywords that they're using. And the businesses know a lot of questions that their clients are asking. And so the combination of those two things, of using the actual words that other people like their ideal client are using, makes your content that much stronger, because it gives it more visibility and can give it more lift. Another thing that I see people doing, businesses doing, is publishing once and then just waiting for the results to come in, or waiting for that one publishing point to be the end of the process. Because a lot of people are, okay, we have to write the blog, we have to get the blog on the website, we have to optimize the blog, we have to put the images in there or the white paper or whatever it might be. But then they're not going out and talking about that asset in other channels. They're not making videos on it. They're not using social media. They're not using it in presentations they're doing in person. And those types of things are the things that are really going to drive new visibility to those content assets. I think Ross Simmons has really great tactics for getting your content out after you hit publish. He always says that's the beginning. That's not the end. When you hit publish, that's not like, whoo, we published, we're done. That's the beginning of your content marketing strategy. So that's something that I see companies really struggle with, is hitting publish and then leaning back and waiting for the eyeballs to roll in, which doesn't happen unless you have a really, really engaged community.
Can I, let's say, when it comes to content marketing at least, can I use tools like AI and ChatGPT to, let's say, produce the bulk load of it? Or should I be a bit cautious and just get, let's say, parts of it done through ChatGPT?
Yes. So I have a lot of thoughts on using AI for content creation. And I think that the best policy for AI is to come up with some use cases that you want to use AI for with your content marketing. And I don't think that those use cases should be, I'm going to write 100 blog posts using ChatGPT so that every day for the next 100 days, I have a new blog post that comes out. Um,
Right.
One, those posts tend to be not very high quality. There's been a quote going around lately that says everyone wants to use AI to generate content, but nobody wants to read AI content, which I think is very apt because it starts to sound generic and a little watered down. And it also tends to lack the brand perspective or the human element, the opinions that a human being would have when they're writing content. And so I think that going back to those use cases for AI, coming up with ways to generate ideas, generate topics, do some research using those contextual tools like Claude 2 and ChatGPT and Bard, those types of things. But then also remembering that a lot of those platforms are not connected to the internet as it is now. They are operating off of models that ended their training in 2021. And there are a couple models out there that are still being trained, but you might be working off of old data. And then, perhaps most importantly, AI can still hallucinate, and it hallucinates regularly. And I don't think enough people realize that. We tested a number of blog AI tools, very popular ones, in order to see whether or not that would be a viable use case for our clients. And what we found was that the information was so wildly inaccurate that it wasn't even worth our time to try to edit that information to be able to get it online. And so when you're dealing with highly regulated industries like the legal industry, health industry, the wealth management industry, financials, that information needs to be accurate, 100, as accurate as you possibly can get it. And AI just has not gotten to the point where it is good enough to have current accurate data to be able to outsource that to an AI, or outsource your blog content to in your content marketing strategy. So a lot of the use cases that we have, we love to use Code Interpreter, which is a ChatGPT plugin that's in beta, I think, still, to be able to analyze data and be able to increase some of our productivity, of give us some insights on this set of data that we might be missing from a human perspective, and then use that to research other things. We use it in linking strategies of coming up with ways to target links that are going to be the most valuable links right off the bat. We use it for, I have this title and give me 10 different variations of this title, and then use, a headline analyzer to find the title that's going to really resonate the most with your target audience. So there are a lot of ways that you can infuse AI tools into your content marketing strategy and your workflow without outsourcing your content creation to robots.
We were talking about AI, and I think well, it's kind of hard not to continue and think about how the influence will be in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you feel it's impacting, let's say, SEO specifically? And how do you think other agencies like us should be using it, or at least using it to our advantage?
So I think that AI's impact on SEO is being felt even more so in the past couple of weeks with SGE, a lot of the changes that are coming in SGE, Search Generative Experience, for anybody who isn't aware, in Google search. And Bing search has also rolled out its own kind of contextual search as well. I think it's called Bing Chat. And so that is definitely something that is changing the landscape of where we focus for our SEO efforts. With Generative Experience, it's the user interface is not fantastic yet. They have added a couple of features in the last couple of weeks where it makes it easier to see the attribution links and be able to go right to a website when you see the SGE answer at the top. I think there's still a lot of problems with that experience because it's taking up a lot of screen real estate, and it's getting to, I was listening to a podcast that Lily Ray was on, and she was saying that 10% of the search generative experience answers are incorrect at this point, and there's 8 billion searches a day, I think. And so if you're getting 10% of that wrong, that is a huge number of searches. And when we're battling this age of misinformation, I think it's AI companies' responsibilities to really make sure that they're providing the best information that they can. But going back to how it affects SEO, I think what we'll really need to pay attention to as SEOs is how are we training these models, these AI models, on our own content? And so how are we providing information that answers contextual search better? Because that's the thing about these chat bots that are out now, is that they're able to put context around a search, which is something that Google and other search engines have been notoriously bad at. So being able to provide more context to search engines and to these other chatbots around your services, your brand voice, your perspective on whatever your industry is, I think will be really important. And I also think that brand search is going to be extremely important. So focusing on your knowledge graph, focusing on your EEAT still, and building that trust and authority is really going to be the thing that is going to separate the good SEO strategies from the poor SEO strategies. And I think that it's going to have a big impact as well on our overall content marketing strategy if you're coming at it from an SEO first perspective, because you're really going to need to dissect what are my long tail terms, what are my transactional terms that really drive those conversions, and where are those informational searches that might not result necessarily in a conversion, but might result in a touch point or some brand awareness. And how then are you going to continue that brand journey for those people who become aware of your brand? So again, that's why I think it's important to diversify your SEO strategy and your content marketing strategy beyond just thinking about Google, which in the past has owned, 97% of all searches online. I think we're seeing a big fracture of that now. And it's important for us to not be Google SEOs, but be all platform SEOs. Like, look at a lot of different platforms as our search engines.
And I wanted to just say thank you for the call.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for watching that episode. I hope you enjoyed. For more videos like this, make sure you like and subscribe.